So today it's important that we talk about contingencies. It's probably the biggest, what is that? People are like, contingency, what's a contingency? So from a seller standpoint and a buyer standpoint, we look at things completely different. So if I'm representing a seller, I want the lowest contingency or no contingency. If I'm representing a buyer, I want a contingency because I want to have the opportunity to inspect that home. So today's lesson will be all about contingencies. So what is a contingency? A buyer can ask for a contingency for inspections, appraisal, loan approval. So basically it's a timeline of events that they have to perform, right? It gives them the option to inspect the bones of the property to know really what they're buying. It also gives them the option to pull out. Upon inspection, if something health and safety, something is found that they're not comfortable with, it still gives them the option to back out of the contract and cancel and get their earnest money deposit back. Same with loan approval, right? If a buyer is struggling for approval, if they're not able to do that, that does give them an opt-out to cancel the transaction. So when your buyer's looking for a contingency, it's good to be able to know how to properly explain it to them so that they know their rights and they know what they're allowed to do on the property to know exactly what they're buying. So a contingency from a buyer's perspective, if I'm representing a buyer, I want the longest contingency possible because I want to be able to explore that property, get that inspection, get the termite inspection, make sure that the client is fully approved and we're not going to have any issues. So the last thing you ever want to do is buy something, it's your biggest asset, and not have the right to do a full inspection and have termites, right? It's not until an inspector goes to the properties and checks literally everything do you know what you're buying. So super important, an inspection happens and it's done within the contingency timeline. So how does a contingency affect a seller? So if a seller has multiple opportunities to receive offers, we're going to be itemizing those out for them, right? They're going to see if it's a short contingency timeline, a long contingency timeline, maybe there's no contingencies. So when it comes from a seller's perspective, they want the shortest contingency possible because they want to eliminate that gap from the buyer being able to basically pull out of the contract. So from a seller's eyes, they're looking at lowest contingency or no contingency. From a buy side, we're looking at contingencies because we want the time to look and do our research on the property before we say absolutely yes. So that's kind of the difference between a buy side contingency and a sell side contingency. So where does a contingency originate from? It comes from the buyers. So when the buyers put in an offer on a home, they have an array of contingencies to select from, right? You can add termite to your report. You could do a home inspection. If you're getting financing, you could do a financing one, which basically means you're approved. So you go through, you fill it all in before you make the offer, right? And then once from the seller's perspective, they're reviewing the offer or offers and trying to select the best one. Seller's point of view is clearly they want less timelines that the buyer has to adhere to ensure the contract is solidified. So from a seller's standpoint, the more contingencies there are, the more likely a buyer could pull out of the contract, which is not a solid deal. From a buy side, if you're financing, you have to have that as a contingency along with an appraisal because a lender is never going to give you money for a home without knowing the value of the product you're purchasing. And typically also want a termite inspection and a home inspection to, again, just validate what it is that you're buying. So once an offer has been made on a property, the listing agent reviews the offer or offers with their client. And it's not just the purchase price that's being reviewed, it's all of the parameters. It's every single thing within the contract. It is the contingencies, it is the earnest money deposit, it is the price point, it's all of these things. So from both perspectives, at this point, it's up to the seller to say, hey, I love this, but I don't love this. And that's when we prepare a counter offer, countering on all the things that we don't agree on in hopes of meeting you in the middle somewhere. Hopefully all of your contingency questions have been answered. But if not, I'm Katie Dorr, your local OC Realtor. Shoot me a message, shoot me a question. I'm happy to help in any capacity.